Hey there. So today I wanted to talk about something I get asked all the time, and that is what field is right for me. I usually get asked this by engineers trying to figure out what discipline they should go into, and there's not really an easy answer. It comes down to what do you like to do and how do you like to do it. So first off, I just want to say that engineering is interdisciplinary. You're going to end up learning everything across the board, and you really don't have to just stick to one. So for me, I started out as a bioengineer, but I took a lot of mechanical engineering classes, electrical engineering classes, and it wasn't until I took an environmental engineering class that I realized I could do the exact same thing, but apply it in different ways. So for example, I was in an intro to bioengineering class and an environmental engineering class at the same time. I looked at the same impacts on the body, but I was really enjoying how I looked at it from the environmental standpoint versus the bio. So that's ultimately how I switched. I just saw how I was looking at things and the way I wanted to actually solve problems. One of the first things I always get asked about is the FE exam. So if you're struggling with which area to take your FE exam in, my advice is take it in the area you think you can pass. Once you get your EIT license, it doesn't say which field you took it in, and you can take your PE exam in a different field 4 years later. You're not stuck in it, you're not locked in, you're not being held back. Just figure out what you've learned the most, which one you think you can apply that knowledge to, and pass. Next up, classes. Honestly, figure out what classes sound exciting to you, figure out which professors you want to learn from and work with, and look into those. You're not being locked in. Usually, you'll get credit for any engineering class, so you have the opportunity to figure out environmental engineering, electrical, mechanical. You really get to experience all of them and make a decision on whether that's what you want to do or not. Ultimately, you're going to take those principles that you learned in other areas and apply them to whatever you end up in. So it's always valuable and it's not a waste of time. So when it comes to getting a job in different fields, my big thing is just look at the requirements. Usually you'll see that it requires a degree in that field or related. So or related is going to be your friend. Ultimately, having an engineering degree, you've learned all these things, like I mentioned, so you're going to have those skills it takes to perform those duties as long as that's what you're interested in, what you have experience with, and what you want to do. So if you're applying to an environmental engineering job and you have a civil or chemical degree, usually that's going to be a great fit still because you'll have that knowledge, you'll have that information you can draw from, and just that mindset that you need to solve those problems and really be really good at that job. Another thing is just you can move around after you've graduated, after you've already got one job, because those experiences are broad and you can apply them in so many different ways. So, what you're learning as an engineer is valuable in every aspect of what you do, not just the field that you have a degree in. I think ultimately, the degree you have, the field you're in, it doesn't matter nearly as much as how you're applying what you do. So if you want to work in the field, if you want to actually be doing field work and on site, then that's going to be the most important part of what you end up doing, not so much which way you're doing it. So working in the fields, if you want to do that, civil or environmental, great options. If you want to work in the lab, you could do environmental engineering, you could do chemical, you could do electrical, you could do mechanical. If you want to work in a factory setting, you could do mechanical, industrial, electrical. Really, it just comes down to what way you want to work and how you want to do that. So it doesn't necessarily matter the field, it matters the way you're going to do it and the application of what you're learning. So lastly, I just want to touch on grad school. Grad school is a great opportunity if you want to go into research, if you want to continue learning things in a more academic setting, and it's also a good way sometimes to transition. So you don't have to go to grad school in the same area you got your bachelor's in. You don't have to go to PhD in the same area you got your master's in. There's always going to be a chance to change. I think the biggest advice I can give you is don't be afraid to change. I started out as a bioengineer. I was sure that that's what I wanted to do. I pictured it in my head and I really had my whole plan put in place. And then I took an environmental engineering class and I realized that I loved it and that that's what I wanted to do. And I had that spark, and that changed everything for me. And that's how I know that this is what I want to do. But I still get to do civil work, I still get to do chemical work, so you're not held back, which is so important. But if you do want to change, that's possible. So go ahead and leave me your comments, your questions. I would love to hear about your own field and your own journey. And I'll see you next time.